Basic research can improve the way we conduct our day-to-day lives, and we can talk a lot about that. I won't go into it here, but we've heard 3 different examples tonight. And something else we've heard tonight is the involvement the faculty and staff bring to the society. They get involved. And sometimes we continue to wear our professorial hats, as it were, in the community and say, well, how can I bring my academics to this problem too? Not just my caring, but what else have I learned, or what research methods have I learned, and how can I teach those to other people? But university education does even more. And this is where I get philosophical. And when we debate where economics belongs, and I've always firmly held we're really philosophy, we're a type of philosophy. We belong in the arts. Because we do question ourselves. It fosters, or perhaps seeks to reawaken, an inventive spirit, born from critical thinking, and the ability to ask creative questions and conduct meaningful research. It's a radical break from that more industrialized model of teaching that really has permeated much of our education system. I can think in the industrialized mode and teach people about supply and demand. Here's the model, here's how it works, here's the equilibrium. Follow this map, you'll get the answer. And I'm done. But if I want to get into this inventive spirit, and I do, and I teach this from first year on up, do people serve the economy, or should the economy serve people? How do we ask that question? If our job is to answer an industrialized question, industrialized research, how much should I produce? And not ask the question, what should we produce? The inventive spirit has the ability to change the very foundations of our culture. We can price additional residence fees. We've been doing this and talking about how much more it's going to cost you to send your child to Fredericton. And there are a lot of people in the South End and the North End across St. John, even out on the Kingston Peninsula, throughout all these areas who won't be able to send their children off at an extra $10,000 a year. Transportation costs. Highway 7, we haven't loose fenced it yet. Good luck you driving up and down that highway at night in the fall. Damage to the environment, increasingly. We're going to have to worry about how far we transport ourselves. We can estimate lost tax revenues, the lower salaries, the welfare effects of declining competition. It gets much harder to price inventive spirit or cultural shift. It's not a thing that you can easily attach dollar value to it. And when forced, I'll sit down and try and mash out a number, but how do you price that sort of stuff? But we have seen something. Kurt turned me on to this a little while ago, and I think this is pretty interesting. In 1981, we saw that St. John had 4.7% of its workforce was self-employed. By the year 2001, we moved that up to 7.9%, in part because we have a university that inspires young people to come up with their own ideas. And in a place where it's not always easy to open up your own business, they have. And they are. And they're here in part because we're there. In New Brunswick, and nowhere more so here than here in St. John, is a corporate culture that dominates. And the job of a corporation, as an economist, I feel it is their job to make money. So how can they do this? Well, they can increase their revenues. And you can do that by making sure you have few competitors. Well, what's one way to make sure you have few competitors? Don't attract new businesses. Certainly, you get rid of the university, you aren't attracting new corporate businesses coming into your area. They can do it by decreasing costs. One way to reduce costs is to make sure the government doesn't overregulate. Doesn't make sure it asks questions that haven't been asked elsewhere. The other way to reduce costs is get the public, for government policy, taxes, and tuition, to subsidize labor training, which is in many ways what the Polytechnic is designed to do. And that foreshadowed the post-secondary report and brings us here today. If you look at the PSC report, and we can discuss this with profs later on, one of the key features is about governance, about how we run a university. And it's all about corporatizing that. getting more industrial leadership there, less professors and people who think about the teaching of this, but more about how do we answer the right questions. And we also see a focus, and we've heard it mentioned before, Chris was mentioning this recently, about industry-based research, industrial-focused research, industrial-guided research. Research that asks the questions industry wants to answer, which is certainly important, but it's not everything. So I find myself here, tired, as many of us are, but at the same time, really kind of uplifted. Uplifted in the way that I was after the NED hearings, which, hey, we didn't lose. We've only started to fight. But the neat part is, we fought together, we stayed together afterwards. Culture includes the corporate culture. It includes so much more. And our community includes the business community, but also so many more communities. And they're all part of a big community. As you've seen, a university, our university, UNBSJ, includes and serves to a greater or lesser extent all these different, overlapping, interrelated communities. We work together with them. I see us here tonight gathered in a church as a community. I can see us gathered in a church, with a church, as a community. Churches and religions, as Pastor Gerard, Wayne has said, this was the church fostered learning and knowing. The church also has an interesting and different way of researching and knowing. That's important. So I think today, we have to imagine that power we jointly wield. If we all continue, this is going to pass. You have to go on with that hope that it will pass. It's dumb, and it will go away. But what can't go away is what we're doing here. We haven't done enough of this. And more of this has to happen. More of us have to be out here. If you think, to tell a familiar story to most of us, 2,000 years ago, some shepherds outside of Bethlehem looking up in awe and fear, and the world shaking. The culture shifted. Something new happened. There's a new way of seeing the world and understanding the world. Hundreds of years later, Copernicus, Kepler, Galileo, they changed the path of planets. When they said, no, the sun doesn't revolve around the earth, we revolve around the sun. And that didn't please a lot of the leaders of the day. But think about what that allowed us. That allowed us to reach out to stars and to actually contemplate visiting new planets, occupying new planets. I think the power of a university and a community is that one day someone from UNBSJ, perhaps today, perhaps someone who's already graduated, perhaps someone will graduate in the next 10 years, is going to change the world in a momentous way. And we're going to see a brand new culture that leads us to someplace we never even thought we could go. And that's why a university belongs in a community, and a community belongs holding on to its universities and working together with us and us with you. Thank you today for this chance.